Hi everyone, I'm Nish, Chief Product Officer at ScrumBuddy. I'm here with Guy, our CEO, to talk a little bit about the product itself. So, hi Guy, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So, why don't you give us a bit of background into yourself?
Sure. So my background is very much a technical one. I have come through the ranks being a software developer, being a technical architect, solution architect, and eventually getting into being involved in kind of different startups. For me, tech has been something that's been a passion through my whole life. I started writing code when I was 7 years old, and it just blew my brain at the potential that was there. The very first thing I ever wrote was just a really simple program where it was like, what's your name? So you'd ask a question, it'd be like, what's your name? And then I'd be like, Guy, and it would go, hi Guy, really nice to meet you. And that blew my mind that inside like this tiny computer, there's just this possibility that there's something more in there. You know, we were a long way away in the 1980s from computing where we are now and what was possible, but just that idea that you could have something in a computer that could be something, just as a small child, just blew my mind. So I got into software developing. I was involved kind of working through the .NET boom in the late 90s. Kind of went back to university about 10 years ago now and did a robotics and artificial intelligence Masters, not for really anything other than fun, because it's something that's always fascinated me. And I've been involved in software delivery kind of in a management capacity and leading startups for the last several years. And that's obviously where we've got to in terms of here we are with ScrumBuddy now.
Cool, interesting. You started when you were so young. With ScrumBuddy now, so it's a spin-off of Pina Vida. Can you tell us a bit about Pina Vida?
Yeah, so Pina Vida is a software consulting company that I set up in 2018. I had seen so many IT projects just fail over the years. Whether it's one of the large multinationals, a Silicon Valley company, a kind of a small agency that's doing software development, no matter how much money is poured into it, private sector, public sector, like projects just fail for so many reasons. And I wanted to try and have a different way of doing things. So I created Pina Vida as a consulting company to come in and deliver software for clients based on a kind of a tweaked software development methodology called delivery first, with the whole focus being actually getting stuff out there. There's a lot of time and kind of process in software, and people become kind of really focused on a particular process or a particular way of doing things, and they forget that the point is actually releasing software. So what I wanted to do is build a whole company around that culture of client focus and actually delivering software. About a year ago, we had an off-site management meeting trying to figure out what our plans were for the next year and how we can actually improve that delivery from a client perspective. And obviously there's, you know, a huge amount of coverage in the media around the time talking about AI, generative AI in particular, models like ChatGPT, kind of GPT-4 has just been launched. There's a huge buzz around it. And so the obvious questions are, you know, can we use this in some way? And so we were discussing different ways that we could potentially use AI. And we started, just while we were there together, playing with just some little AI models to see what would happen if we fed it some data. So we got a user story that was describing some requirements that was a real one that we'd had going through development recently. And we gave it to this AI model and went, hey, what are the problems with this? And it highlighted a bunch straight away. And we were like, okay, so let me give you some answers to these questions. Now, could you rewrite the story for us? And it went, sure. It went away, rewrote the whole story. And then we went, okay, this is working pretty well. Well, can you estimate it for us? Goes away, gives us an estimate in terms of kind of hours that would be spent on it and in terms of a sizing for it. We went away and we had a look at what the actual dev team had done. And the dev team had underestimated it in their initial planning, whereas the actual amount of time it spent and the actual hours that were spent marred up much better with what this AI model had done than with what our own team, who've been working with this client for years, they're experienced on the project, and yet they were less good at estimating it than an AI that's got absolutely no context and has just been thrown the data there and then. And we're like, okay, there's potential here. After that, we started doing the idea was just to help our teams deliver for customers. So we started doing some more modeling after that, some more playing around. And within a few months, it became apparent that there was absolutely legs here and that we could turn this into a product to not just help our current clients that we're working with, but to allow any software developers, whether they're in a small team of one or a big, large multinational, delivering really complex projects, that it would help deal with a lot of the problems that we see within Scrum teams.
So before you actually started playing, or I suppose when we were in the management team meeting and we were messing around with that, had you actually thought that AI was something that would be as trendy, or not trendy, as transformative as it apparently is in this day and age?
Yeah, did I think AI would be transformative at that point? Yeah, absolutely. AI had crossed the threshold several months before there of going from novelty that was interesting and developing to really needing to get some attention. There was a lot going on at the same time, whether it's the large language models and generative AI, whether it's around the advances in the physical hardware to run it, whether it's around the models for kind of graphics generation, audio, so much all converging at the same time. Did I think it was transformative? Yes. Did I think right there and then the current large language models would be able to give out such useful data for what we were doing? No. I mean, you might remember we were also discussing a couple of other ideas at the time. We were thinking actually this could be used in more process-based stuff internally rather than the development side. And yes, there are AI models that were already starting to work on developing code, but that's, you give it a defined requirement, because giving it nebulous, woolly requirements and having something that's fundamentally a text autocomplete go, actually, here are some really insightful questions you've not considered. Now, that was a surprise.
Yeah. So what specifically about the sort of Scrum team experience did you feel that this particular product would revolutionize? Even from our experience in teams, in our own delivery teams.
So there's a number of different problems within software delivery generally. And I think a lot of them can be classified as people problems. The stuff that people struggle to do that actually are really key to the process. You need to deliver a software product well, really understand the requirements, top to bottom. You need to be able to see where there are gaps in those requirements. You need to make sure that everybody in the team is working on that same vision and going towards the same thing. Because software gets big and complicated, and one person comes in, works on it, somebody else comes in and does it. It's entirely possible that you're building on a feature that was developed weeks, months, years ago. And no one goes back. No one goes and reads all the documentation. No one even keeps documentation in most cases. And it's not even the case that everyone involved in the business understands the whole complexity, particularly of larger, more complex solutions. It's compounded because you've got this situation where the retention in software development is maybe 2 years for a lot of companies, 2 to 3 years. It can take 1.5 years to 2 years to actually learn everything about product, and then someone's gone. So you have this treadmill of people constantly leaving as well. All of that means that the knowledge that's needed to truly deliver software often just goes. So people don't understand the requirements. So we've got this problem with requirements, people leaving not understanding it. On top of that, it causes a problem with estimations. People aren't sure what they're doing. People aren't sure of the amount that's required. It's very difficult to go, yeah, that's definitively going to be this size. And it's often the case that then how much work is going to be done is planned based on estimates that are wildly inaccurate. All of this transforms into projects that are late. It transforms into projects whereby the development team commit to more they're capable of doing. They rush. And then you've got this double-edged sword of people rushing to meet deadlines, not understanding the requirements, bugs come out. Now, a bug that's dealt with in development might take 30 seconds. When that goes to test, the tester has to find it, then they're going to have to repeat all the testing they've done. There's probably some discussion about it. The very short few minutes of development now might turn into a man-day when you add everybody's time that's involved in a small bug. If that gets found when you've already started to prepare a release and you have to do all the work around that again, it might be 5 man-days that are done in it, particularly in larger teams. Roll that out into production with a large enterprise solution, and this small 30-second fix in a bug can take 100 times longer for the fix. So you can look at multiple man-days of work for this tiny, tiny fix that would have taken place in the first place. So it's imperative from a cost perspective and from managing your delivery team. If you're wasting 20 man-days on a 30-second piece of work, your whole throughput through the team scales down. So these are all really big issues. And you were like, okay, how can AI manage this? Well, I didn't think it could originally. There's too much in there. But actually, the ability to make the requirements understood really is key to a lot of this. It's a difficult thing. People don't ask the right questions because people don't know what questions they need to ask. If you go to a developer and go, here's a question, oh, I don't know what that is. They go research it, they get the answers, and they have a much more informed view of the work, and that impacts across the whole of this delivery schedule. So I was genuinely surprised at how good from the requirement side AI has been, and that really ticks all these boxes. It deals with estimation, it deals with understanding, it helps reduce bugs, it reduces the amount of time it takes to get a product out. You scale all of these things together, and very quickly you have a team that's performing better. And what we've discovered since then with ScrumBuddy is actually this potential extends so much more widely across the entire development process and to every single part of the software development process, all of the meetings. There's a useful insight that we can get from AI just across the board for a development team.
You talked about sort of the requirements element of it. As somebody who writes requirements, do we think that at some point the AI can potentially take over that particular role? Or is it something that sits alongside an existing sort of delivery team at the moment?
So I think there's a lot of concern generally around where AI comes in. Is it replacing jobs? Is your job, your whole team's job, going to vanish and just be replaced with AI? Well, as it stands, I think we are a very long way away from that. Our software developers currently all going to go because there's all these different AIs that are capable of going and generating a website and chucking stuff out. There's a lot of concern generally, and where we are in 10, 20 years, I think is anybody's best guess. But I don't see ScrumBuddy fitting into that pipeline. What ScrumBuddy is, and what I think most current AI models and the level of technology that we're at, is tooling to help people. If you go and look for software development vacancies, there are, even in the current economic situation, so many vacancies across the board, so much potential. There are more vacancies than there are candidates to fill it. We, no matter what we're putting out on offer, what the package looks like, struggle to find the right people, to get good people in. There are just too many software developer jobs, too many test jobs, too many business analysts that we need to create software as a world with all the different projects that are going on, that it's a case of using those people more effectively. I think we could kind of half the time spent on each project and everybody would still be maximum utilised. At the end of the day, businesses want to compete with their competition. And if they've already got a commitment to budget, some might try and save some money here or there, but the majority of people are going to try and get one up in terms of the product that they're offering, get things out to market quicker, and deliver better products for their own customers as well. And ScrumBuddy really is there not to replace anybody in their role within the team at all. It's to allow them to do more with their time and to ultimately deliver better things into production.
And also spend less time doing the stuff that they don't want to do, which is clarification meetings, going through questions that should have already been answered up front with their development team, wasting, I think we've actually estimated something like 36 hours of our own team within a sprint that's wasted on clarification meetings. The other question I had was, we have talked about the vision, we've talked about where it came from. What does the product actually do?
So what ScrumBuddy does right now is it provides help during the refinement and estimation phases of a project. Let's say that you are a Scrum Master and you're using ScrumBuddy within your team. You come and you set up a refinement on the ScrumBuddy platform. You select all of your stories, whether they're in DevOps, whether they're in Jira. It brings them all in and it will then set up a refinement session for you. What ScrumBuddy does in the background is it goes away and it analyzes everything that's in there and it comes up with a bunch of important information for you. It will ask you insightful questions about the stories in a number of categories. Have you thought about this? What about this? This was mentioned in this story and you've completely forgotten it here. Then it will also give you a quality score, an analysis of kind of the key areas that you're missing. It might go like, this is actually a really good story, but you've completely missed something to do with deployments to production that's relevant to this story, and you don't want to miss that in your requirements list. Once you've answered those questions to ScrumBuddy and you've provided the information, ScrumBuddy then has the ability to go and actually rewrite the story for you. So rather than having to go away, have a BA rewrite the story and go through the whole cycle again and have another refinement session, you can hit a button, get a new story come back, and you as a team can decide right there and then, are you happy with this? Maybe you want to go and take the rewritten story away and refine it slightly. Maybe you want to do it right there and then. Or maybe you just take it as it is and you go. Once you've finished your refinement and the team are ready, they can move into estimation. Whether it's a separate session, tied in with planning, refinement, it's flexible. It depends on your team. Once you get to the refinement stage, there's a full planning poker built into the ScrumBuddy platform. So the team come in, they do their estimates, and ScrumBuddy also does an estimate, and it will try and benchmark that to your team size. So the kind of story point sizing or t-shirt sizing, depending on how you estimate, ScrumBuddy will adapt its estimates accordingly. It might come up with an estimate, let's say we're doing story points of 30, and the whole team come with a 2. Now, there's obviously a big disparity there. Now, either ScrumBuddy's got something horribly wrong, or the team have got something horribly wrong, and there needs to be a discussion around that. And often teams, even if they are playing planning poker to hide what they're doing, tend to gravitate similar places. And in my experience, yes, you do get some differentiation, you do get some discussions, but there's a lot of the time in a lot of teams where you don't, and something is missed. ScrumBuddy's there to go, whoa, you guys have forgotten this thing here. And then that gets raised as, have you considered all these things as the reasons that it should be a 13, not a 1 or a 2? And the conversation then happens in the team, and it will prompt a discussion. It's like having an extra technical architect, an extra person that understands it there in every meeting with an extra degree of complexity in it. And then you can obviously choose what estimate you go through, it feeds back into it. That's where we are from the MVP that we're launching to customers at the moment. In terms of the wider feature set, ScrumBuddy is going to be joining your Teams calls, it's going to be joining Zoom, it's going to be in your Slack, it's going to be partaking in every single part of the development process. And that's your development process as a team, whether it's 3 Amigos sessions, whether it's kind of planning, refinement, whether it's your daily stand-ups. ScrumBuddy is going to be able to go to a Scrum Master, oh, you forgot this thing that yesterday somebody said that they would do, and it's really important, and we've all forgotten to discuss it on this morning's stand-up. It's there to help all of those things, to reduce all of the complexity and to go through the entire process whilst producing really useful metrics that can be fed outside the team, so that IT teams don't just become this black box in the middle of the company that no one knows about until things go horribly wrong at the end and it all turns red. And it helps give that visibility to the wider organisation as well. So ScrumBuddy is really there to go for the entire process. It will tie into requirements writing. It will just figure out all of the problems you've got in terms of missing requirements. Where you've got complex projects with multiple teams working, it'll be able to go, hey, this team that are working on this part of the project have come up with a requirement and a change to it that impacts this team over here, and nobody's communicated it. It's there to help spot all of those gaps that happen constantly in the software development process.
And a question that I've had every single time I talk about it, are we looking to replace Scrum Masters?
No, the same as I was saying about business analysts and software developers and testers, Scrum Masters are just as important. It's here to help Scrum Masters. You know, as a Scrum Master, trying to remember everything that was said in yesterday's stand-up that you might need to follow up on today or to prompt is difficult to do. It can be difficult to think about capacity planning. It can be difficult to remember all of the details you need and how to piece it together for the team. ScrumBuddy is here as an assistant to help Scrum Masters, the same as it is the rest of the team. And what each person gets from ScrumBuddy is going to be different. You know, from a Scrum Master, it helps me work better with my team and helps me enable my team to do more, to be that kind of humble servant that's there to help the team move forward as one team that are making informed decisions. As a business analyst, it saves my time rewriting things, it helps point out issues in my requirements, it helps me make sure I've not missed anything in terms of what I'm doing. As a tester, it makes sure I haven't missed any test cases. As a developer, it makes sure I understand the technical complexity of it and that I'm managing all of the things like release pipelines that I might not have thought about as part of the process. It's there to provide help for all of these gaps that you have in the process, not to replace anyone. It's there to allow people to do their jobs faster and dealing with the complexities in an easier way.
Cool. So it sounds like we're not getting rid of Scrum Masters or product owners anytime soon then.
People are a key to the process. You know, I said at the start, this is a people problem.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you get rid of people. That means you help the people where there's the problem and let people do what they've got best. Using AI to generate code from developers had technical background, so I can kind of fall very much into that. I've been coding for far more years than I want to count now. And
you're not ready to admit your age?
No, I'm not ready to admit my age yet. It's many more years than I'd like to. And yet, it's useful sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, recently looking into the code that the team are working on for ScrumBuddy, you know, I still like to get in, have a look at what's going on. I'm like, okay, I've never worked with these frameworks before. I'd be interested in learning about it. So actually, Q&A with just ChatGPT, really useful for me. You know, if I wanted to go and start doing a project by myself, yeah, I can use some generative code to help put some boilerplate stuff together for me. Even with decades of experience, it still doesn't hurt to use AI to help you. And that's really what we're here for. It's to just provide another useful tool and for us to use AI in the same way that we use everything else with computers to help us make our lives easier.
Okay, great, Guy. Thanks for the chat. I hope everyone else is understanding a bit more about ScrumBuddy now.
All right, thanks, Nish. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching today, guys. I hope you enjoyed our content. If you did,
please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.